The arena was already on fire before the show even started. Every seat in the building was filled, every voice echoing through the air with chants of Roman Rollins, Roman Rollins, because everyone knew something big was brewing. WWE had been teasing a major return all week, hyping up SmackDown as a night that will change everything. Nobody knew what that meant until the lights went out. The opening match had barely ended when the sound system crashed. The crowd went dead silent. The Titantron flickered with static. Then, a voice. A familiar, gravelly tone that sent chills down every spine in the building. "You thought I was gone forever." The lights exploded back on and there he was. Dean Ambrose. The crowd erupted like an earthquake. The man the WWE Universe had been begging to see again for years had just walked back into a WWE ring. No music. No warning. Just Ambrose, walking through the smoke in his classic black jacket, eyes locked on the ring with that same unhinged glare that used to terrify everyone. The camera cut to fans literally crying, some jumping over the barricade before security stopped them. It didn't feel like a wrestling return, it felt like a ghost had just walked back into the living world. Ambrose stepped into the ring slowly, microphone in hand. He didn't speak for almost a full minute. The crowd chanted "welcome back" over and over until he raised the mic. "You all thought the lunatic was gone, huh?" The crowd roared. "You thought I'd run away, disappear, let this whole place forget what real chaos looks like. But you can't kill me. You can't bury me. You can't erase the Shield." And that's when he dropped the line that sent everyone into hysteria: "I didn't come back for me. I came back for them." The screen flashed footage of the Shield's history, chairs swinging, betrayals, brotherhood, wars, and then the arena went pitch black again. When the lights returned, Roman Reigns was standing at the top of the ramp. No pyro. No bloodline entourage. Just Roman, his face a storm of disbelief and emotion. For the first time in years, the tribal chief looked like a man, not a ruler. He started walking down the ramp, every step heavier than the last. Ambrose didn't move. The crowd held its breath. When Roman finally stepped into the ring, the tension was unbearable. Two men who once ruled WWE together now stood face to face again, their entire past flashing between them. The crowd chanted, "Shield! Shield! Shield!" but Roman said nothing. Ambrose smirked. "You look surprised, big dog." The crowd popped. "You thought you could build an empire without me? Without us?" Roman clenched his jaw, microphone trembling in his hand. "You walked away." Ambrose laughed bitterly. "I didn't walk away, Roman. I was pushed out. You think I didn't see what this company became? You think I didn't watch you become something you swore you'd never be? You became everything the Shield stood against." Roman stepped closer, eyes burning. "You don't get to come back here and talk about brotherhood after you turned your back." Ambrose stared him down. "The difference is, I came back. Because I never stopped being your brother." The crowd lost their minds. For a second, Roman's eyes softened, just a flicker of old memories, but before he could respond, another familiar theme hit. The entire building exploded as Seth Rollins' music blared through the speakers. The visionary was here. Rollins walked down the ramp slowly, wearing his long black coat, his face unreadable. He stepped into the ring, looked at Ambrose, then at Roman. The three men who once dominated WWE stood together again, the air so thick with tension you could feel it through the screen. Rollins was the first to speak. "I don't know what game this is, Dean. You show up out of nowhere, you talk about family, but where were you when I was lying in a hospital bed? Where were you when Roman's empire was crumbling? You don't get to walk in and pretend none of it happened." Ambrose nodded, taking a step closer. "You're right, Seth. I wasn't here. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why everything went wrong. Because the Shield was never supposed to die. We were supposed to fix this place, not let it rot." The crowd started chanting, "Reunite! Reunite!" Roman and Seth looked at each other, tension mixing with nostalgia. And then, Ambrose dropped the bombshell: "You both know what's coming. You've seen the chaos. The bloodline's falling apart, the locker room's divided, and this company's on fire. I didn't come back to play nice, I came back to take it all back. For us." Roman's eyes narrowed. "For us? Or for you?" Ambrose smirked. "Does it matter?" Before anything else could happen, the Titantron lit up with an image of Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso watching from backstage. They weren't smiling. Solo muttered, "He's back for war." The crowd's energy hit the roof. Roman looked toward the screen, then back at Ambrose and Seth. He took a deep breath, microphone raised. "You want a war? You got it. But this time we do it the right way." Ambrose's eyes flickered with something dangerous. The right way, or the Shield way? Then, without warning, the lights went out again. The sound of gunmetal echoed through the speakers, the unmistakable click of the Shield's old theme. When the lights returned, the Titantron displayed one word in bold white letters: justice. The crowd lost their minds. This wasn't nostalgia anymore. It was a declaration. Roman dropped the mic. Seth stared at Ambrose, torn between fury and hope. Ambrose stepped back, spread his arms, and shouted, "You know you missed it." The arena erupted as the crowd chanted, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" over and over. But backstage, the chaos was already spreading. Triple H was seen arguing with producers, demanding to know who approved Ambrose's appearance. The Bloodline locker room was in disarray. Solo smashed a monitor, shouting, "He's not taking our spot." Meanwhile, Roman and Seth stayed in the ring. Roman finally turned to Seth, eyes sharp. "You trust him?" Seth shook his head. "No, but I trust what we were." Roman nodded. "Then let's see if it still means something." The three men stared each other down as SmackDown went off the air. No music. No celebration. Just tension thick enough to cut with a knife. The internet exploded. The Shield was trending worldwide within minutes. Ambrose returns, the Shield, and SmackDown chaos dominated every social media platform. Fans called it the biggest moment of the decade. Wrestlers from both WWE and AEW posted shocked reactions. Even Jon Moxley's name trended under his old WWE moniker. But this wasn't over, not even close. The next day, WWE released an official statement confirming Ambrose's return to active competition. The company called it the most unexpected comeback in modern history. They also confirmed that Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose would appear together on SmackDown the following week for the first time in 7 years. Every ticket sold out within minutes. Fans camped outside arenas just to be part of it. The Shield's name alone reignited the entire fanbase. And when that night finally came, you could feel the electricity from the parking lot. Every fan knew history was about to happen again. The show opened with Roman standing in the ring, mic in hand, the crowd chanting, "Welcome back, Dean," over and over. He looked around and said, "A lot's changed since we last stood here together. But one thing never will: when the Shield shows up, the whole world watches." Then he looked at the stage and said, "If you're here for real, then get out here and prove it." Ambrose walked out to another deafening roar, followed by Rollins. They entered the ring slowly, forming that classic triangle stance, each man facing the other two. For a moment, it felt like old times. The Shield was home. But before they could speak, the Bloodline's music hit. Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso walked out, both wearing grim expressions. Solo grabbed a mic. "You think you can just walk in here and take back what we built? You're looking at the new empire now." Roman stared at them, fury in his eyes. "This isn't your empire. You're just living in the ashes of ours." Solo sneered. "Then maybe it's time we burn what's left." The two sides stared each other down as the crowd screamed. Ambrose cracked his neck, smiling. "Guess we're starting the reunion early." And then it happened. The Shield struck first. Ambrose launched at Jimmy, Rollins hit the ropes, and Roman speared Solo so hard the ring shook. The crowd went absolutely insane. Years of emotion poured out in one violent, beautiful explosion of unity. For the first time in 7 years, the Shield stood tall together. Roman in the center, Seth to his right, Ambrose to his left. Fists raised. The old pose. The classic glare. The Shield was officially back. The entire locker room watched from backstage. The Bloodline was seething. Paul Heyman whispered, "They just changed everything." As the camera zoomed in, Ambrose looked straight into the lens and said, "Justice is back." SmackDown faded to black. The Shield had returned. But behind that reunion, something darker was brewing, something that would test their brotherhood one last time. Because Ambrose didn't come back just to reunite. He came back to finish what he started. The roar inside the arena was thunderous. Dean Ambrose had returned. Seth Rollins was frozen, tears gathering in his eyes. Roman Reigns' face, once cold and unreadable, cracked with disbelief. For years, fans had begged for this moment. For years, they'd said it would never happen again. And yet, here it was. Dean Ambrose was standing in front of the tribal chief and the visionary, staring down the two men who had carried WWE on their backs since he left. Roman took a single step forward. The air between them was electric. Fans knew this was history repeating, rewriting, and being reborn all at once. Dean didn't move. He just smirked. "Miss me," he mouthed, and the cameras caught it. Seth wiped his face with the back of his hand, overwhelmed. Michael Cole's voice cracked on commentary, "The Shield reunited." In 2025, Dean Ambrose was back. And not just back, he was home. But this wasn't the same Shield. This was a Roman Reigns who had conquered everything. This was a Seth Rollins who had been broken and reborn. And this was a Dean Ambrose who had survived wars outside WWE mentally, physically, spiritually. Each man was scarred, stronger, colder. The crowd could sense that this wasn't a reunion for nostalgia, it was a resurrection. Roman's voice was low when he finally spoke, "You left us." Dean replied without hesitation, "You changed." The crowd gasped. There it was, 10 years of emotion in 4 words. Seth stepped between them. "We all did," he said, his voice shaking, "but we're still here." The three men stared at each other for what felt like forever. Then, in one of the most spine-tingling moments in SmackDown history, Roman extended his fist forward. The crowd went silent. Dean's eyes narrowed then softened. Slowly, he raised his own fist. Seth looked between them, smiled through tears, and joined in. The Shield pose returned. The arena erupted like a thunderstorm. The cameras shook. People jumped from their seats, grown adults crying as if watching a part of their own youth come back to life. Even the commentators went quiet, just the sound of the crowd chanting, "Shield! Shield! Shield!" echoing through the night. But just as the trio raised their fists in unity, the lights in the arena cut out. Total darkness. Seconds passed. Then the Titantron flickered to life. An image appeared. A new group. Hooded figures, faces covered, standing in a smoky warehouse. A distorted voice spoke, "You call yourselves brothers. We call you relics. Time to erase the past." Static. Then silence. Roman turned to Seth and Dean, eyes narrowing. "They picked the wrong night," he growled. The crowd went insane. Dean grinned that signature grin. Seth laughed. The Shield stood tall, side by side, ready for war. Backstage chaos erupted. Adam Pearce was seen shouting into a phone. Security was scrambled. The WWE Universe Online exploded. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok # Shield Reunion was trending worldwide within minutes. Every wrestler watching from the locker room was stunned. This wasn't a planned segment. This was something deeper. Something personal. Reports started leaking that this new faction had been attacking top stars in recent weeks, leaving cryptic messages, claiming they were coming to purge the industry. Many believed it was led by a returning WWE superstar, someone dangerous, someone who had a past with the Shield. Speculation hit fever pitch. Names like Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, even CM Punk were being thrown around. But nobody knew for sure. Meanwhile, cameras caught Roman, Seth, and Dean backstage, surrounded by chaos. They weren't celebrating, they were planning. "We end this before it starts," Roman said coldly. "We do it together." Dean nodded. "No leaders this time. Just brothers." Seth looked at them both. "Then let's burn it down." The episode ended not with a promo, not with an ending, but with a feeling. The Shield walking down the hallway together, side by side, black tactical gear gleaming under the flickering lights. Roman's red glove clenched tight. Seth's leather jacket fluttering. Dean's wild grin returning. A decade of betrayal, heartbreak, and chaos, reborn in one night. Fans watching at home felt that this wasn't just nostalgia. This was a statement. The Shield wasn't coming back for memories. They were coming back for dominance. As the credits rolled, WWE posted one final shot, the Shield standing under the SmackDown logo, with the words "Brothers. Reborn. 2025." Within hours, merchandise dropped online. The Shield's new logo, a hybrid of the old fist symbol and Roman's tribal markings, sold out instantly. WWE's social media crashed. Every wrestling podcast, every news site, every YouTuber was covering it. Dean Ambrose returns became the biggest headline since CM Punk's comeback. But the story didn't end there. Leaked footage from after SmackDown showed Roman and Dean sitting alone in the locker room. Roman said quietly, "I don't trust them." Dean chuckled. "You shouldn't." Seth entered, sweaty and exhausted, tossing a towel on the bench. "Trust's overrated," he said. "What matters is, they fear us again." Roman smirked. "Let them." Dean leaned back. "Because when the Shield rides again." Seth interrupted, "There's no coming back for anyone in their way." The camera faded to black, the echoes of the past colliding with the promise of the future. And that's how the Shield, the most dominant faction in WWE history, returned, not as heroes, not as villains, but as a force the world wasn't ready for. This wasn't nostalgia. This was prophecy fulfilled. The Shield had risen again, and SmackDown would never be the same.